Hello and welcome to the Joe Ligato Show. I'm your host, Dr. Joe Ligato. Today we're going to be reviewing this article from the journal neo.su, and it is on how U.S. shapes Philippines into Southeast Asia's Ukraine. And so I'm going to be interested to see their take on this because I am currently living in the Philippines and I want to know what the future of the Philippines might be, considering I believe it's potentially going to be a battleground for World War III, given United States' control over the Philippines and its central location as a potential staging point for the United States against China. So let's see what this article says. So with the rise of China, so too rises Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia has slowly transformed in terms of economics, infrastructure, tourism, industry, and politically over the last 2 decades as Chinese influence increases and inevitably displaces U.S. influence over the region. So typically a person or a nation's sphere of influence will be strongest as nearer to itself, and it's harder to project power and influence further abroad. At its height, U.S. influence resulted in a major war spanning 2 decades engulfing Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos. The U.S. maintained military bases across the region, including Thailand and the Philippines. However, when the U.S. finally lost its war against Vietnam, it withdrew much of its military, and in the following decades, the region slowly shifted from depending heavily on trade with the U.S. and allies, including Japan, over to China. So China stands as the largest trading partner, investor, source of tourism, and infrastructure partner for most of Southeast Asia, including the Philippines. So China is Philippines' largest export market. Between the Chinese mainland and Hong Kong, over 30% of exports from the Philippines go to China. So that's important for the Philippines. The U.S. and Japan combined account for only around 25%. China also stands as the largest source of imports into the Philippines at around 33%, while the U.S. accounts for around 6% and Japan around 8%. Okay. China is indisputably the Philippines' largest trade partner. China is also the Philippines' best chance at developing badly needed modern infrastructure. That is something I didn't really understand when coming here, which was the Philippines is very centrally located. It's a major location for trade routes, and so it should be a highly developed nation. And something is holding it back, and I think it's the dominance of the United States, the fact that the Philippines really does act as a colony of the United States. And the prior leader of the Philippines, Duterte, tried to stop that and help, to a very large extent, modernize the Philippines and develop the Philippines. And that's why he's much loved within the Philippines. And it's just very unfortunate. I don't want to go into too much detail, but it doesn't look like that is going to continue. And so if you're wondering why the Philippines is not developing as fast as other countries in the vicinity in Southeast Asia, it's because, I believe, because of the United States influence and United States using it for cheap labor and keeping it suppressed so that it can maintain its colonial dominance over it and extract resources and exploit the populace. So yeah, a lot of potential in the Philippines. It's just untapped potential at this point. So, however, while nations across Southeast Asia are expanding their relationship with China and building the region together, the Philippines finds itself irrationally cutting itself off from China, laying out a foreign policy demonstrably contradicting its own best interests. The Philippines sacrifices progress to become U.S. provocateur as Chinese, and I've talked about this in other videos, but on America's side is Taiwan. And Taiwan has more territorial disputes with the Philippines than mainland China does. So if the United States does win this hypothetical World War III, not only is Philippines going to be absolutely ravaged because it's going to be a battleground, but the United States is going to inevitably take the side of Taiwan, in which case the Philippines would lose more territory to Taiwan than it would have lost to mainland China. So it's better to come to an agreement over territorial disputes with China than it is to lose territory to Taiwan, which the United States would support over the Philippines. And I don't think there's much disagreement over which side the United States would take, Taiwan or the Philippines. The United States needs Taiwan more for its semiconductor industry. And so it's really an objective reality, complete factual reality that it is better for the Philippines to be on China's side versus on the United States and Taiwan side. So China is building high-speed rail networks, begin in Laos and Indonesia, and another continues construction in Thailand. The Philippines has recently canceled several joint Chinese rail projects. U.S. government-funded Binar News reported in its recent article, Philippines dropped funding with China for 3 railway projects. That not only will Philippines no longer seek funding from China, it will also seek out alternative contractors to build the rail project. Again, who's going to do that? China is the one that builds rail projects all across the world, and no one else is going to do it. The United States doesn't build things. Since no other nation is capable, the article even says it, since no other nation is capable of building such projects in the region, the Philippines has, for all intents and purposes, put infrastructure investment on hold. That is absolutely ridiculous that that's happening. Again, I don't want to be too critical because I am living in the Philippines right now, but I would love to see the Philippines develop further. Earlier this year, the Philippines has also signed a military basing agreement with the United States. Again, why would this make any sense whatsoever? Why would you become a battleground for World War III? This is not to the benefit of the Filipino people. So the Washington Post in this article, the U.S. reaches military base access agreement in the Philippines. Okay, so the Philippines has also begun talks with the U.S. for development of a port dangerously close to China's island province of Taiwan. Reuters, in its article, exclusive U.S. military talks to develop port in the Philippines facing Taiwan. And so remember, these military bases and ports, they are meant for war with China. They are directed towards China. It's self-evident that they are meant to be hostile towards China. And Philippines is becoming associated with that and is, unfortunately, it's not going to be good for the Philippines. If you just look quantifiably at Philippines versus China, do you think the United States is going to come to the aid of the Philippines if it did come to a military conflict? I mean, look at what Russia and Ukraine, the conflict there. The United States is just watching from the sidelines as the Ukrainians wipe out their all military-age men in their country. So it's just not in the benefit of the Philippines. So while the United States justifies its growing military presence in the Philippines by settling maritime disputes, it should be noted that maritime disputes are common both around the world and particularly in Southeast Asia. Yeah, that's the thing. It's not that China has disputes with a ton of other countries around it. It's that every country in the South China Sea area has disputes with each other. So it's something that they should be working out with each other, but the United States is trying to provoke conflicts with China, and so these resolutions are just not happening. China is able to make agreements with other countries when it comes to disputes. They made agreements with Russia to resolve the border disputes it had. So it's just a matter of the United States meddling that's causing these problems. Okay. Malaysia, for example, in 2017, sank nearly 300 foreign fishing boats seized amid these disputes, including fishing boats from the Philippines. Okay, we could skip that. Let's just talk about the territorial disputes. Thus, the U.S. is using common maritime disputes as a pretext to insert military into the region. Okay, so the Philippines has American foothold. The U.S. State Department Office of the Historian, a publication titled Philippines-American War, would admit that the U.S. seized the Philippines as a U.S. colony from Spain and then waged a brutal war of subjugation against the Philippines people. The U.S. State Department admits that the ensuing Philippines-American War lasted 3 years and resulted in the death of over 4,200 American and over 20,000 Philippines combatants. As many as 200,000 Filipino civilians died from violence, famine, and disease. So hundreds of thousands have died fighting a war of independence for the Philippines against the United States. China has never fought the Philippines. They've never invaded the Philippines. It's not something that's happened. And so you're kind of going against your ancestors who fought and died to have freedom by supporting America in this instance. So U.S. forces burned villages, implemented civilian reconcentration policies, employed torture on suspected guerrillas, while Filipino fighters also tortured captured soldiers and terrorized civilians who cooperated with American forces. Many civilians died, blah, blah, blah. We could skip that. Okay, United States granted supposed independence to Philippines in 1946, but they've been a proxy for the United States ever since. Okay. So, United States propaganda apparatus, the National Endowment for Democracy, other NGOs, they work to get people to spew American propaganda in the Philippines to persuade Filipinos to believe that America is its ally. In terms of political capture, the Philippines represents one of Washington's success stories, enduring U.S. influence first as the Philippines' colonial master and then through decades of indoctrination and political influence via the NED and programs like the Fulbright Scholarship. Washington has convinced Manila to forego the benefits of trade and economic development together with China and the rest of Asia in exchange for positioning itself as Southeast Asia is Ukraine. Yes, that is exactly what's happening. If you look at other areas of Southeast Asia, they are developing far more rapidly than Philippines, and it's because of their relationship with China, whereas the Philippines has a relationship with the United States. And so it's objective reality that the Philippines is hurting itself by working with the United States instead of working with China. So the article goes on to say, just as Kyiv attempted to convince the Ukrainian people that the West would provide a superior substitute for the nation's longstanding ties with Russia, only to instead find itself abandoned at the end of a self-destructive proxy war, Manila is likewise attempting to convince the people of the Philippines, like the United States, Australia, and Japan, will provide better alternatives to Chinese-driven trade, economic progress, and infrastructure development. Okay, so a few things to say here. One is when Ukraine pivoted to the West after 2014 Maidan coup, they were still worse off. Their wealth declined after pivoting towards the United States. This is before the war with Russia. They were still not better off. So even ignoring the war, just being in the United States Western sphere of influence was worse for Ukraine than being in the Russian sphere of influence. That's objective reality. You could look at the income per person in Ukraine. It went down after joining the West. And a lot of countries are in the same boat. If you look at Japan with the Plaza Accords, they've been in decline. If you look at the United States attacking Germany's energy infrastructure, such as the Nord Stream pipeline bombing, there's not many countries in the last few decades that have actually benefited from joining America. And then talking here about United States, Australia, and Japan alternatives for trade, economic progress, and infrastructure development, they're not capable of these things. The United States has terrible infrastructure. I'm from the United States. I'm from the Rust Steel Belt of the United States, and it has terrible infrastructure. So that's not going to happen. So in reality, all the U.S. is building in the Philippines are military bases meant to drag both it and the region into a greater instability, economic stagnation, and possibility even of war. Only time will tell if China's patient rise and ability to build out the rest of the region will outlast America's desire and ability to divide and destroy Asia. The Philippines, for its part, serves as an indicator of which direction the region may move in. Sadly, for now, it seems the U.S. capacity for dividing and endangering the region is still very much intact. So yeah, that's what I believe too, to a very large extent. And you can clearly see that things are just better when you work with Russia and China versus working with the United States. I mean, look at United States trade partners, its allies who have been subservient to it since the end of World War II in Europe. They're all in the decline. They're all facing very long-term recessions at this point. I mean, what is the benefit of joining the United States here? I don't know what it is. I really don't. Please leave a note in the comment box about what you think the benefit of joining the United States is, because I would love to hear what you say. So thank you for watching. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, leave that in the comment box below. I do read all of them, and I will respond if necessary. If you found this video to be informative, please give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube and Rumble for more content. And tell a friend about our channel as well. We are being suppressed by the algorithm. We used to get 4-digit view counts. Now we're getting 1 or 2-digit view counts, even though we've increased the production quality. And so we would like to get our videos out there more. We have some ideas about that, but we would love your help as well. So if you found this video to be helpful, we appreciate you, and we hope to see you again. And I hope you have a good rest of your day. Bye.